Hi everyone, welcome back to Victoria Wilding Creates, where I share a sneak peek into my creative process. Today I'm finally getting round to sharing a tour of my colour cabin. This is my creative space. We moved into a new house almost 2 years ago and I didn't have enough space inside for a dedicated creative space, so we built this at the bottom of our garden. And I have made use of every inch of the space in terms of, displaying some of my craft supplies. I quite like to be able to see what I've got because I find that really kind of boosts my inspiration. So there is lots jammed into this little space. So the main part of the space is my desk. So you can see here that I've got a bunch of tools that I use most regularly right at my on hand, so that I can just reach for things as I'm making. And then directly in front of me I've stashed some of the cards and things that I've been sent, and then at my side I have a little display, some creative makes, and then I've got buckets, these buckets from IKEA, and hold my coloured pencils in colour groups. And then you can see here, this is the top of my Kallax unit. So again, I've got some of my makes displayed, a bunch of pens, and some drawers. And in those drawers are things like re-inkers, and little crafty bits. And then this is my paper artsy stash. So I have all my paper artsy paints displayed on my shelves. Again, just colour inspiration, again with some buckets underneath holding a whole host of different coloured pens, some watercolour markers and things. And then my main Kallax unit is at the back, and I use this for storing all of my stamps. So well, amongst other things. So here you can see these are all the Tim Holtz stamps. So I split everything up into particular categories. These are all the art journals that I'm currently working in, and then this is just a bunch of different cards and smaller journals, and then my acrylic blocks. And then these are my paper artsy stamps. So I have a selection from all the different designers, and because I'm running out of room, these are the paper artsy minis in this bucket, and then there's some more larger sets there at the back as well. And I really like this system. It means that I can really easily find products that I'm looking for really easily. So these are my Tracy Evans stamps. So you can see there, there's her newer stamps launched in her name, and then these are some of her older stamps from All and Create, because I do still like to dip into those older designs every once in a while. Yeah, so that kind of continues as we go along. So again, these here are more Tracy stamps. So these are some of the larger sets, and then this section has a mix of different things in. So these are All and Create stamps by some of the other designers. So you can see there's quite a lot of different things in those buckets. So lots and lots of creative goodies to pick from. And having most of my things in these plastic bins just really helps when I'm making. I can just kind of grab that out and put it on my desk. So these are some of my dies. So there's a selection of different ones here. So you can see there's some of my nesting dies. I use dies occasionally. They're not kind of one of the main features in my work, but they do definitely crop up. And then these are some of the embossing folders and die sets from Sizzix. Most of these are mainly Tim Holtz ones. So again, a really good selection of things there. So you can see on the calyx unit that I did split some of these shelves to give these smaller spaces, and that was just to maximise the amount of storage space, because before I did this I found that there was a lot of wasted space at the top. So there were all my inks and my fountain pens in the one that we've just seen, and then here are a few more stamps, and in the tin are some wooden stamp sets. So then I've put these drawers in, and these hold a variety of crafty supplies. So you could see in the top there were some of the distressed watercolour pencils and crayons, and then these two drawers have some of my ribbons and fabrics that I most often use in my makes. So they're just kind of piled in the drawer, and then we're on to my ink pads. So these are my distress oxides, and I stack them up in colour families, and then these are some of the inks, and you can see there the inky palette and some bottled ink as well at the side, and more inks. So these are my distress mini inks, some of my Lise Horton Cloud 9 ones, and there were some PH Martin watercolour liquids there as well. Then they're all my archival ink pads, and then my Versafine Claire ink pads. And then right at the bottom of this calyx unit are some storage bucket. So this one holds some stamps that I use less often, but don't want to kind of part with. This one has a selection of boxes, envelopes, papery things. This is just the general junk drawer, so you can see there some of my kitchen roll. There's some cutters and some frames, pencil cases, baby wipes, that kind of thing. And then this end one, I've got a stash of new journals and used journals. And you can see there an old camera holder for my desk as well. So you can see in the bottom there all the different journals and things. And then we're on to the really exciting part of my studio. I think this is probably my favourite corner. So these are all my watercolours. So I've mostly put my watercolours in the drawers, which I will show you in a minute. But there are still just a few sets that I've kept separate. So I just kind of stash them on top. And then here you can see some of the drawers. So again, these drawers I've put into colour families. So there were my yellows, then my pinks, some of the blues. And I really love this way of having all of my colours together. Previously, I used to keep everything in separate tins by brand, and it really meant that I did use some of my watercolours more than others. So this way works for me. It just lets me see all of the colours within a colour family, and then I can kind of pick one from there regardless of the brand. So I have this smaller calyx unit to the side, and you can see here that I've put all of my spray bottles in little baskets. So I've got a mix, you could see there the Dina Wakley gloss sprays, some of the distress products, and again I've grouped these loosely into baskets of warm and cool. Again, it just makes it a bit easier when I'm in the middle of making, and helps to prevent me making mud. These are some of the different mediums and things that I have for some of my mixed media stuff. My cutting plates and some spare card, card blanks and then my gel plates, and then right at the bottom you can see I have a stash of papers and then some of my creative books and things and a few more stencils. And then right in the corner I have these metal shells. Now in my old space these used to sit under my desk, but I've moved these into the corner now, and you can see that there's specific things in each drawer. So these are some of my embossing powders. These are all my WOW ones. So I have a drawer of WOW embossing stuff, and then this drawer has lots of my Ranger embossing stuff, so some of the distress ones and then some of their others. A drawer full of ideology and just other bits and pieces, and then sparkly drawer. So this is anything glittery, so you can see there that there's some embellishments in the little tray at the top, but also metallic flakes, gilding waxes and things. Then these are all watercolour powders, so some Lindy stuff, my Paper Arts infusions, which I absolutely love, and a drawer full of tape, mostly washi tapes, but also some like foam tape and things like that as well. And then these are my tubes of watercolour. So when I get a new tube, I do squeeze it out into a pan and put that in my main stash, and then this is where I stash all of the other tubes. This drawer's got just some general tools and bits and bobs, so you can see there's some more sticky tape and pads and magnets for my watercolours and things, and then some bottled ink in this one, and then the bottom two drawers have got paint, so you can see there's some of my Dina Wakeler paints, some big tubes of acrylic, and then my distress paints at the bottom. And then there in the corner, in the slightly crusty bags, are my alcohol markers, and that is more or less it. I've just got some threads and stuff and a couple of boxes of stuff stashed there at the top. Yeah, that really is nearly everything that there is to see. You can just see that I like to have lots of things around me. The last little bit is my cart. So on here, these tubs have some of my paper scraps in, and my paper cutters are there. You can see my old typewriter there at the bottom that comes out occasionally, and then under this top lid I've organised some of my paper ephemera into little tubs. And then the bottom two shelves hold some of my leftover colour supplies. So a few coloured pencils that I didn't want to take out of the tins or boxes, and some soft pastels as well. So you can see there, yeah, just a mix of those things really. These are pastels from Jane Davenport. Quite like using those on the gel plate actually. They're a really nice way of lifting some coloured detail in the prints. Yeah, and then more of the same at the bottom, just more tins of supplies. So my Neo Colour 2s, some more crayons, metallic pencils, and then the wooden box at the bottom is actually a drawing set, so that has different pencils and charcoals in and things. And then yeah, just another glance at my desk. At the side I have this little trolley, and that has some of my most used card and tools and things, so my scissors and things sitting there, and then some more papers and things down the front, and that's just so that it's dead easy to grab. So that is my colour cabin. I hope you enjoyed a little glimpse behind the scenes, And until next time, wishing you a happy creative week. Bye for now.